Well, I'm very happy to say that we now have the ability to change keyboard shortcuts in Preferences. We have, on one hand, shortcuts for panels, and on the other hand, shortcuts for common operators, and we can configure them to our liking. We have a new panel organization. Now we can show only the ones we select. We can also add and display multiple panels at once and configure them in a comfortable way for us, allowing us to make the combinations we want. We also have the ability to use floating panels and assign keyboard shortcuts to make them appear when needed. Let's take a look at some of the new features we have in display modes in the new version of Blocksurface. Let's see. We have different options in this Blocksurface bar, such as this one that removes the outliner, leaves the mesh generated in the union with the objects of the collection a little cleaner. So we can have a slightly cleaner view. Then we have this button that toggles between the type of viewport shading we had and the default one for Blocksurfaces. In the default viewport shading for Blocksurfaces, we can see the color given for each branch. Here we have the option to view in X-ray mode. Here we can hide the inner objects. We can work without visualizing the objects inside the branch. For example, let's create a new branch here. Let's reset the scale. And let's make an arm. You can see how we are working without seeing the inner objects. But if I switch to sculpting mode, they will be shown again, and we can work with them. When I switch back to object mode, the objects will be hidden again if that's what we had configured. We also have this button here to put the generated mesh in Smooth Shader. This is purely a visual effect. We need to be clear that if we generate this object, we will have this resolution according to the divisions we have in the inner objects. It's basically to give us an idea of how it would look smoothed. We also have two color selectors here. One for the inner objects. They all have the same material. And the other one would be for the branches, for the generated object. Now we could change the color of the generated object and also configure its material. We can work in materials mode or in render mode with materials assigned to the generated objects. To modify the material of the generated object, with the shortcut Alt+V, we select the generated mesh as usual. With the active generated mesh, you will have the material to change its characteristics. And again, when we finish modifying the material, with Alt+V, we select the objects within the branch and continue with the blocking. And if we have the inner objects hidden, we can have a much more pleasant visualization by blocking with materials. Let's set up a material for the body. Alt+V to select the generated mesh. As I mentioned before, let's try something with subsurface. We go back with Alt+V again to the objects in the branch. We have this C.Mat button with which we could copy the material from the active one to the selected objects. This would copy the material from the active object to the selected ones. Here we have, if we want, for example, to put the metal material on this instead of this skin material, we copy it from the active object, thus assigning materials. Just keep in mind that the active one is the one that provides the material to the other selected objects. Now, if we want to create a new material for this part based on this common material for all, if I change it here, we are changing the material for all. If I want to create a new material for this part, we would create a new material with n.mat, creating an identical copy of the currently active one. But we have a new material, just like the previous one, so now we can change it as we want because it will only modify this one. For example, in this one, we create a new material and give it a value. Then, with C.Mat, we copy the material to all the selected objects, we copy the material from the active object, and in n.mat, we create a new material by duplicating the existing one. We can make the modifications we want as a new material. We have one more option here, which is to collapse or expand the collections. To have a clearer view in the outliner and know where we are, we can collapse or expand the collections. So, we can work with the objects visible or hidden, lights, materials, and in material or render mode. We can configure shortcuts, panels, and also have a much neater view. I hope you like the changes. Thank you for the support.